the Cash Flow Code. And my guest today is Saurabh, and he is the author and coach, lots of other things. He's a certified financial analyst and all these fancy things, which makes me feel kind of dumb, but that's okay. I'll get over it. But we're going to start off talking today with him about his new book, The CEO and the Coach. And I think that that's a really good title and a really good topic for our conversation. So let's bring Surab on. Hey, Surab, how are you today?
Hi there, I'm fine. Thank you, George. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
My pleasure. And I know it's like the middle of the night over in India. So I thank you for being staying up late tonight. So tell me about this, the CEO and the coach. What does that mean?
Basically, this is a book that my coach, she's based out of London. She and I wrote this book over the last couple of years. And the reason we wrote the book, Josh, was Anna Lumberger is her name. Anna and I started working together in 2017. And after four years of being coached by her, I realized that the way she had helped me learn how to deal with pressure, how to deal with
Oops, you just froze.
tough meetings, how to deal with difficult negotiations, dealt with Anna's coaching her material bearing on how I dealt with the very tough years of COVID. We went through two rough years of COVID in India, and small business owners like me faced all sorts of exigencies, not just cash flow pressures on the business, but also difficult personal circumstances. Many of my colleagues also went through great difficulty. And that the coaching lessons I'd received from Anna through 2017, 2018, 2019 stood in great stead as we went through the ravages of COVID. So when we came out of COVID, I met Anna in London and I said, can we put a book together on how you coached me, how that coaching helped me? And the goal was, can we get this message out to other people, millions of people around the world who are running businesses? And that's how Unfiltered, the CEO of the coach, came along.
Cool. So let's go back to 2017 when you hired her as your coach. What brought you to realize that you wanted to have a coach?
So I have to be honest, at that juncture, I was running another small business. I was the CEO of another small business, and the owner of that business, he made the point that look, you've done well in life. At an early age, you've risen to becoming a CEO of this business, but there are rough edges in your personality. There are issues with your anger management, issues with your people management that you need to look at. And why don't we get you a coach? So that was a little involuntary. So I was very lucky that the owner of my previous company, I was very lucky that he almost nudged me. I'm being polite here, nudged me into coaching. But once I met Anna and I had a couple of sessions with her, and she helped me spot the what should I say the blind spot. She helped me spot blind spots in my persona. I very quickly realized that this was a good thing, and I need more of it. And that's how a coaching relationship settled down and gradually became a friendship. The friendship led to the book, which we are hoping will help millions of other people out there running small businesses.
What was your thought in 2017 when your boss came in and said, "You got anger issues, and I'm going to get you a coach"?
I thought it was a political ploy. I thought it was basically a political ploy to put me in the parking lot and get me busy with the coach, whilst other people were whilst I felt other people might being groomed for succession. In retrospect, it wasn't a political ploy; it was a sincere gesture. But the old me, the old Saurabh, the pre-coaching Saurabh, felt that it was a political ploy on my then employer's part to get me a coach.
So, why do you think small business owners are so resistant to having a coach in the first place?
I think whether you're a small business owner or a large business owner, once you sort of cross your mid 30s, I suspect it becomes very difficult for you to accept that there's a bunch of things that you're doing wrong and you could do much better, right? I was 41 when Anna started coaching me, and it was difficult, right? I felt that I'd risen in the world through my own brains and my hard work, and I felt that if I've come so far on common sense and hard work, I can go all the way. But life is rarely like that. You do need to learn new skills as you get older, as your business gets bigger. But as a small business owner, you're battling on so many fronts as it is. You often main salesperson, you're managing internal processes, you're fighting fires sometimes, and you feel I have so much on my plate. You really now need to learn from a coach. Maybe not. Let me just carry on as I am. I certainly was in that mindset until the owner of the company I used to run helped me see a different perspective on the world.
What about this coach that you find effective, and how does she work with you where she got your attention?
I think let me answer the second question first, Josh. I think how did she get my attention? So, initial few meetings, I think the first three sessions, some on Zoom, some face to face, some in London, some in Mumbai. The initial few meetings were about trust building. Like once she had won my trust, she said, "Can I speak to your direct reports? Can I speak to the other board members of the company which you're running? Can I speak to your family?" Right? And I consented, and she had won my trust, and I consented, and she spoke to around a dozen odd people, Josh, and then she gave me the feedback. And the feedback was a absolute sort of sucker punch. It was a hammer blow. I'd never heard anything like that before. She basically said a lot of people are really scared of you. Right? Your style of management, your behavior scares people, and therefore they don't open up to you. And that has several downside consequences. Nobody had ever given me such brutal feedback, and she actually gave it to me in writing. And to this day, even though this happened 6 years ago, I can almost verbatim tell you what that feedback was. That was a real wake up call. That look, it's not just a question of making money and growing a company. You also want to be a reasonably good human being. You want to be a good father, a good husband, a good manager, a good boss. And I realized I was failing on many of those fronts. So that was the sort of how did she get my attention? How did she help me? Broadly, there are three things that Anna Lumberg has helped me with, and I recount this in chapter three of our book, the CEO of the Coach. The first part was there are blind spots. There are negatives that I have in my persona, in my behavior, but negatives I'm unaware of, such as the fact that people are scared of me. Second is there are skills that I don't have, which I know I don't have. So for example, my negotiation skills were reasonably poor. I knew I was poor at it, but I wasn't working on strengthening those, and she helped me with those. And thirdly, most fascinatingly, there are skills that you don't have, but you don't even know that you don't have those skills. So, for example, I didn't have the skill of empathizing with people when they were feeling down, right? I didn't know I was missing the skill. I didn't know there was any such thing called empathizing with your colleagues when they are feeling a little low, right? Now, with the benefit of hindsight, I can smile with you, but 6 years ago that was me. So broadly speaking, those are the three sets of things a coach can help with: blind spots, skills that you need to build that you know you don't have, and finally skills that you need to build, but you don't even know that you're missing those skills.
Yeah, that could have been the 26 to 28-year-old me. I mean, I used to go into my office every day and scream at somebody full loud scream, full on scream because they made a mistake.
Right?
And
Yeah.
you can imagine the sort of cooperation I didn't get from my team as a result of that. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a really good company. We provided good service, but it was through brute force. It wasn't through the employees wanted to do it. They were just scared they were going to get yelled at. So they did what they had to do not to get yelled at. They didn't do what they had to do or what they wanted to do to create a great company.
Good thing, Josh, you were 28 when you did it. I was doing that when I was 41. So I think perhaps I needed to coach more than you did. But I think you're right. That's exactly the sort of thing that a coach can help with. It's almost, you're sort of looking at a very sophisticated mirror, right? You're looking at a mirror which is giving you your true self, and it's telling you this isn't working, this needs to change.
Yeah, the truth is, you don't have to have as bad behavior as you and I were exhibiting when we brought coaches in to help us out. What you do need to realize is that if you want to get past where you are in your business, you have 10 employees and you want to go to 20 employees, or you have 25 employees, you want to build a company of 50 employees, you're not going to do it by yourself unless you have somebody from the outside looking at you and giving you a really, good feedback that nobody in your company is willing to give you. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, even today the coaching continues. So when Anna and I speak in a couple of weeks' time, she'll ask me how did the last fortnight go, and I could lie to her, but because of the friendship we built up, I'll say that look on 18th of June I had a difficult meeting and I flared up at somebody. Here's the sequence leading to the flare up. And then we will sort of do a post-mortem. What happened? Why did I flare up? It was an important business negotiation. Why did I lose my temper there? It's difficult for a colleague to do that with me. Right? I've worked with broadly the same team now for 15 years, and whilst they become friends and we work together effectively. It's difficult for a colleague who's known me for 15 years at close quarters to sit down with me, dissect my behavior, and say, look, perhaps you could have prepared for that difficult negotiation better, sort of, or perhaps you could have kept yourself fresh going into what you knew was going to be a difficult meeting rather than being tired going into a difficult meeting. So that's how it works. It's an ongoing thing. There is no sort of silver bullet. If you have this tablet and you're good thereafter, you work at it much like physical fitness. Your fitness as a CEO is something you have to continually work on.
So this is something I have found has been true in all the companies I've been involved with, and I actually think it's true with every company I've ever worked with, is that nobody ever tells us the boss the truth.
Yeah,
That's inside the
exactly.
company. They
Yeah,
tell you what you want, what they think you want to hear. For the most part. I mean, every once in a while they get brave and they'll tell you what they really think, but that's usually as they're walking out the door. It's not usually from people who want to stay employed. And one of the values of a coach for me has been they tell me what I need to hear, not what they think I want to hear. That's if they're a
yeah.
good coach.
Yeah, I think it's the emperor's new clothes, right? It's the emperor's new clothes, and that's why I think it's a fable that we all need to remember. I think the emperor's new clothes probably plays out in millions of companies around the world every day, and in a way, a coach is the emperor's. Um, the coach is the emperor's panacea, the emperor's remedy, so that if he's walking around without clothes, the coach is able to call that out and say, "Hey, wake up and smell the coffee."
And by the way, not all coaches will call you out. Not all coaches will tell you the truth. There's a lot of coaches out there, and I would say probably at least half, who really aren't making a great living and they really need your business. So they're not going to offend you, which is what you need to have. I mean, you need to have a coach who's willing to tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear the truth. And if you find your coach agreeing with everything you say, they're probably not the right coach for you. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
super point, Josh. I think there are cheerleaders. There are a lot of consultants and coaches who basically become your cheerleaders because they believe it's in their interest to sort of boost your ego. And a good coach is someone who necessarily challenges you, uh, helps you strive to become a better person by challenging you. Very similar to a good fitness trainer. A fitness trainer who's your best friend and lets you get away with a soft workout isn't doing his or her job. And ditto with a coach. And that's where ultimately it's you and your character. If you have the strength of character, you'll have a tough coach who will push you, help you become a better CEO. And therefore, in a way, birds of a feather flock together. Great coaches and great CEOs, I think, tend to tend to align, and sort of mediocre CEOs and mediocre coaches tend to align. And therefore, if you're looking to get value out of coaching, get a super coach. Don't sort of skimp on budget and get a low budget coach. It's not going to be easy. Typically, great coaches will cost a bit of money, but the impact they'll have on your company, on your career will be outsized.
Right. One thing I notice that good coaches tend to work through questions. They don't often tell you, they'll just ask you stuff and they'll help you discover what you need to do. Is that what's happened with you?
Absolutely. So I think they call it the Socratic. I learned from Anna. It's called the Socratic style of questioning.
Yeah.
So we question after question after question, and the question makes you think. And typically, because good coaches tend to get a lot of good training in this, the coaches themselves tend to be really well trained in asking these kind of penetrating questions. Typically, by say the halfway point of a 1.5 hour coaching session, you will hit upon the answer yourself. Right? It's very rare that the coach will give you the answer. Typically, if it's a 90-minute session, by the 40th or 50th minute, Josh or Saurabh come up with the answer, and the last half an hour is then spent figuring out now that you have the answer, Saurabh, how do you go forth and implement it? How do you make sure that in difficult negotiations you won't lose your temper going forward? What are the uh, uh, behavioral remedies that you can implement? What are the negotiation techniques that you learn? And that's broadly a coaching session. 40 minutes of Socratic questioning. Around the 45th, 50th minute, you hit upon the answer, and in the last half an hour, 40 minutes is spent upon the actual remedying of the defect.
And my experience is coaches are really, at least this is what I see, they're not therapists, but they could be a therapist with deep subject expertise.
Nicely put.
Whereas
I think
if you go to a therapist, they're really good at helping you identify what your problems are and help you work it through, but they generally won't have the expertise to help you move to the next level in your business. Whereas a great business coach, they will help you discover what you need to do, but they also have the expertise to know if you're going down the wrong road.
absolutely. So I think the three constituencies of people who typically try to help people like us, right? So first is a therapist. I used to have one. So when we had a second child, I had a lot on my plate. I was turning around the business then, two kids at home, a lot of pressure on different fronts, and I needed a therapist to get through that. Second type of person is mentors, right? Mentors basically share their lived experience with you. They're not really coaches. They say, look, sort of, I've been where you are. This is broadly what I did. This worked for me. This worked for me. You might want to try that out, right? And then you get the coach who, in a way, says, I am trained in psychology, and as a trained psychologist, I'm trained in psychology. I've also run businesses myself, and I've run actually university departments myself, and I'm trained in coaching, and hence I've got the toolkit that will help you deal with a whole bunch of things. So it's a spectrum. I would say therapist is more for behavioral challenges, more for personal life issues. Mentors are people who share with you their lived experiences, but they're not coaches. And finally, the coach is the person who combines all of these skill sets and gives you insight into your challenges and the way forward.
And we have a fourth category also. We call them thinking partners. And
Right? Wow, very
a
interesting.
thinking partner is actually above a coach because what they do is they have high
Right.
expertise. They help you think through a problem and they help you develop a strategy for what you want to do next. But it's your strategy, not their strategy. So they're basically a coach will sit in a nice, comfortable chair across the room from you. A thinking partner sits in the chair next to you.
Very interesting.
So, so a mentor will be across the table.
Yes, yes, yeah.
A coach will be in a chair across the room, but a thinking partner is in a comfortable chair next to your comfortable chair, talking to each other in a sideways manner.
That's very interesting. I'm glad I did this podcast because I learned something very new. Let me try to go away and implement that.
It was something that I've thought I have a fair amount of training in this stuff, and the
Awesome.
person I get some training from, she likes to refer to the work that we do, which is in transitions, financial transitions, as a thinking partner. And
Right,
I've always liked that term better than coach or mentor. And
right,
I tend to use it more with the people I work with than saying, hey, I'm in here to coach you. Well, a coach is directional. At least, if I think about an athletic coach or a director or a music teacher, they're very directional, but they're
yeah,
sort of coaching. Whereas a mentor will share their knowledge, but they don't help you own it. They just say, here's what I know, and you should do what I do. And then you have a
right.
thinking partner, which will help you think through the problem with deep expertise and help you do that. It sounds like what your coach is actually a thinking partner.
Right, right. I think there's an element to that. Where I think she's been very and her inputs have been very useful is in not just my behavior. Increasingly, she's helped our HR. We're a company with roughly 100 odd people. She's helped our HR team, our leadership team, figure out. improvements in their managerial style. So it's not just at a personal level, but at a group level, at a corporate level. She's helped us basically fix our HR strategy. For corporate strategy for Marcellus, I might adopt this thinking partner suggestion that it came up with,
Yeah.
Josh.
Well, coaches can play several roles. I mean, when you're working with a group of people within a company, you've moved from coach to facilitator.
Right, right.
And
Um,
the reason I'm so crazy about these labels is I actually think labels are really important that we put on things.
Absolutely.
And when we put a label on something that's more descriptive,
Mhm.
it's easier for other people to get on board.
Yeah, nicely put. I think in the context of, say, if I take Marcellus, and you described this in Unfiltered, the CEO and the coach, at the height of COVID, right? So much like America, India went through a really bad first wave. It was June 2020, Josh, June 2020. The entire country was shut. Our offices were shut. We obviously couldn't sign up new businesses with the whole thing shut. Many of my relatives were in hospitals in various places in the world. And Anna facilitated a Zoom session. She was in London, we were spread all across India. There was, I think, 10 of us on that Zoom call. And that Zoom call was not really coaching, it was facilitation on how you guys feeling at this juncture. What can you do to protect the business, to protect your health, to look after your relatives at this really dark hour? And I think that session, right, even as I recounted, the hairs on the back of my head go up. That 1 hour session was critical in building morale, maintaining morale, giving people hope at what was a particularly difficult time for people around the world, but especially for people like us running a small company in India, in Mumbai. And I look back at that session, that's as much facilitation as it is coaching, but hey, it was useful, and it was, I think, a turning point in Marcellus, the company that I run in Marcellus's evolution.
So it sounds to me like you have a great coach. And I would recommend people read the book because when great people are put stuff down in writing, it often can become really valuable for you. And unfortunately, we're out of time. So, how would people find you and how would they find your book? And what would you like them to do now?
The book's available on Amazon in almost every country. It's also available in Audible, not just you can buy it in Kindle, you can buy it in hardback, but Amazon's also made it available in the Audible format. So if you're driving along or in the gym, you can listen to Unfiltered, the CEO and the coach by Saurabh and Anna Limburger, pretty much anywhere in the world. And if you want to find me, drop me a mail on Saurabh, Sauredh, at Marcellus, Marcellus.in.
Cool. And I've got two things I'd like you to do. I'd like you to go wherever you're listening to this podcast and please give us an honest rating and review. It's really important. And if you're new to our podcast, welcome. Now go over to where you're listening to it and click on the button and click that 1 to 5 star and write something about the show. You might actually like it. And the second thing is that we have a program we call the Financial Freedom Accelerator. And it's a program where first you find out where you stand on the road to financial freedom from your business. And the second is you're likely going to find out you're not where you want to be. So you're going to need some strategies to get there. And the second part of the program is we help you find a strategy that will create financial freedom for yourself, which really comes down to how do I increase the cash flow? And once I increase that cash flow, what do I do with it? So and again, it's really easy. You go to www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom. That's www.sustainablebusiness.co/freedom. You'll either read a little bit about what the program is. And if you're interested, click on the button, talk to Josh, and we'll set up a time to talk about it and see if it's a good fit for you. So this is Josh Patrick, and we're with Saurabh, and I mispronounced your name, so I apologize it. We're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.